Hi, I'm Caleb L. Lafayette, and I give Nick Nimmin full permission to use this video in any way he wants to. So recently, Nick Nimmin sent out a video to his subscribers asking us, what does it mean to us to be creative? So what it means to me to be creative is to have fun. To have fun developing a story for other people to enjoy. It's why enjoying a story, well, is the reason why we really create stories, isn't to intrigue people and to bring them in to enjoy it. Now, I don't restrict myself to one area, like my music or my shows. I don't keep myself to sci-fi, fantasy, anime, or I restrict myself to comedy. And same with music, is that I love listening to country, hip-hop, dubstep, remixes, heavy metal. I love listening to heavy metal, historical rock music, all that stuff. So in watching other shows, I like to gather all that information together and basically absorb it. And I do similar things with music slightly differently. I'll get to that in just a moment. The thing that I like to do, and I already took this bit of advice before I heard about it from a writer, an actual writer. He does, I can't remember if he does science fiction or fantasy. Maybe he does both. A man by the name of David Farland, he suggests or recommends that you read and watch other people's stories so that you can improve upon your own. And I do that all the time. One of the most important things that at least I find about making a story is criticism. Now, nowadays, it's really hard to give someone your solid opinion about something unless you are really good friends, because you're worried about the person
getting all offended, because people get so offended these days. It's horrible to have an opinion of your own and criticize someone for it.
Sorry about that. Happens occasionally. But it is a bit of an issue. The thing I've had to learn, particularly being the youngest of 8, now some of y'all on the other side of the screen probably are in a family of 14 or 15, so it makes my family a bit smaller. But at any rate, being the youngest of 8, in almost everything, I had to accept criticism. Now, even if I was further up in my family, I would still have to take criticism from my older siblings. The important thing about criticism is learning which ones are the good ones that you should listen to, and which ones are the nitpicky, very little caring about you and what this thing means to you criticism. Those are the two criticisms that I know of. There are probably more kinds of criticisms out there, but these are the two that I'm focusing on right now. The good ones and the bad ones. When I tell someone a story, it helps bring out plot holes in my story. And that is very helpful, because I can come up with a story and I can get all hyped about it, get excited, tell someone about it.
You see this hole in your boat over here? This boat has got a huge hole in it and water's pouring in.
Well, fudge. You're right. At that point, I end up just start gathering up my repair materials and start trying to patch up that hole and figure out what the hole was caused by. How did I miss this in designing my boat? And then, of course, there's the bad ones, which are like,
Oh, you got this little bit here where, like, moisture's coming through.
So you just got to figure out which ones are which for yourself. And particularly, you might want to find a friend or sibling or multiple of the either one or both, and trust them to help you find out which ones are which. So I'm going to use boats as an analogy here. Each boat is an idea. It doesn't matter if it's a story, a song, kind of same thing there, or a design for something, maybe some mechanical or simplistic. Each idea is a boat in your mind. And in talking to other people, at least for me, it helps me figure out where the flaws are in my design. Now, there have been several stories that they've had so many holes in them, or they just weren't going anywhere, that I just abandoned them. And sometimes you can actually focus on your other ideas and then later come back to some of those other ideas that you let sink to the bottom, bring them back up, patch them up, and maybe you got something. These are a lot of things you got to figure out for yourself, but I'm just trying to help point them out to you in case you don't know this. Some other important things. So, in watching other people's stories, how does that help? Well, as far as I remember from what David Farland has said, and from what I gathered even before I heard him say this, is that you can look at someone else's story, you can analyze it yourself, and figure out what flaws they have, or what you see as flaws. There are a lot of stories you can look at out there and see so many plot holes. My carpenter brother, Isaac, who's on the other side of my phone there, he can go into a movie with a bunch of friends. Friends come out, they're all happy, hunky-dory, like, hey, this movie's great. What do you think, Isaac? And he can give a solid opinion about...
Well, it was flawed in a lot of areas. This is unrealistic here. That will not happen here. That is not a human element.
He's amazing at that. I'm actually a little envious of him of that. But anywho, in watching or reading someone else's story or ideas, whatever they may be, you can take that information and change it up if you want. So I like to watch a lot of anime. I like to go from, watching something simplistic, maybe even a little romantic, like High School Rumble or My Love Story. I love My Love Story. Then I also like to watch something more bizarre like One Punch Man. Always that bizarre. It took me, if it weren't for the comedy in there, I'm not sure if I would have been able to get myself through One Punch Man. And then, just a little ways past that, there is things like Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan is really, even by Japanese standards, pretty mild on the intensity scale. I mean, there are some, for those of us who know more about anime,
Anime can take some dark turns, and that's something.
So, Attack on Titan, there were lots of things that bugged me about it and its plot holes, but I'm only going to mention two, otherwise this is going to become a review and not a video about critiquing. So, we're only going to hit 2 points. One, how the freaking heck did humanity build these enormous walls that stretch out for a vast distance, 3 layers of them, when we were on the brink of extinction? There be something wrong there. Now, I only watched part of the second season, so there may have been something in there that I didn't see. But I just lost interest in it because they were trying to go a little too dramatic. Attack on Titan was a really neat story. I liked the way it was going, really. But with a lot of stories, it's just hard to keep things consistent. And I'll talk about that in just a sec. Bunny hopped off there for a moment. And the second point was the cable equipment. The cable equipment doesn't really make much sense for the environment that they made. Now, if there were like specific points or poles that the cable equipment could attach themselves to swing around, instead of relying on the buildings to be consistent throughout all the cities and stuff. Now, the trees, that makes sense, and the Titans themselves attaching the cables there, that makes sense, but within the city, I feel like they really, really messed up there. You could have done. I feel like they could have done something better. So those are the only 2 points. How did humanity make these enormous walls when we were on the brink of extinction, and the cable equipment? Those are 2 major plot holes. So what I ended up doing with that story is I changed a lot of things. One, I'm just going to only mention a few things about the alternate version that I made from Attack on Titan is one, have more than just these titans. Having just one thread, it doesn't. At first, it seemed pretty intense, but then once you got to know the universe of the Attack on Titan, or at least a small part of it, it was rather minuscule. And I'm kind of sorry to downsize on it, but it's kind of the truth. So one of the things I did was more enemies. Make a fantasy story is basically what I kind of turned into, and that there are more enemies to worry about than just tall, very stupid, and naked giants. So there's my 2 cents on that. So back to story and keeping things consistent. They had a small issue there with the creators of the Attack on Titan. Now, how much does the show and the manga vary? I have no idea. But with a story like Attack on Titan, I feel like the person could have done a little bit better job, but it also depends on how much of a time crunch they have. That's one thing that we all gotta understand. Even Nimin can understand that.
A project has a deadline. This very video that I'm making has a deadline, and I'm making it 4 days before the deadline. So, yeah, I'm pretty close on that.
But you gotta think ahead. You gotta think ahead. You gotta think about the overall arch of your story, because Attack on Titan went from really intense, really gritty, to more mystery and human emotion drama. It was it felt like a very sudden change, particularly when it came to, and here's another point about cinematic or particularly anime creativity, are the openings and endings. Now, endings I won't really go into, but the very first opening for Attack on Titan was intense. Both the music and the video, the way it all came together, it was awesome. And that's one of the things that a lot of people really loved about it. And I know it's what I really loved about it. Then when it came to the second half of the anime, when they had the second opening, I was amongst some of the people who weren't too terribly happy with it, and maybe the creators saw this in the future, saw this happening, or they didn't. In either case, you went from
Really intense. Ooh, who's got to? Okay, we got a balance of this thing. Where's the intensity?
It was a very sudden drop in the intensity scale. And that is some thin ice that you gotta be careful that you walk on when you create a story that's intense. Either you gotta keep it intense the entire time, which can be tiring or hard to maintain, or have it gradually go down, and then to keep an audience interested, bring it back up. And you go a little too in depth on that. But there's a little thing there that I wish a lot of people know. And here's an example of a story, an anime, that did really well at keeping things at a pretty consistent level. It kept things at a pretty consistent level. Is Gurren Lagann. If you've not seen Gurren Lagann, I highly recommend that you go see it, because it's both bizarre, hilarious, and intense all in one. The creators, I don't know how many people created the original story of the manga, or maybe it was just an anime, I don't remember. They did a really good job, because I'm gonna do everything I can to not spoil anything for you people who haven't seen it. But they started out very basic, told you about your main character, the little area that he lives in, and then they suddenly brought an enemy in. It was easy for the audience to grasp, and then your main characters go on an adventure to stop a big bad guy. Pretty basic story-wise, but it was fun. It was fun to watch, seeing the characters develop, seeing how they made a resistance. And then even after they beat the big bad guy, you had to wonder, what's next? What's next? Because of the way they left a small cliffhanger there. And then it comes to the new enemy. And in doing that, they're able to keep things at a pretty consistent level of comedy, intensity, and just overall story. It was a very impressive job. Whereas on the flip side, well, there are probably more extreme versions, but this is one I know of. Attack on Titan. You go from crazy intense to less intense. It was a little issue where you as the audience got to understand the world that they're in and the environment, and becomes less scary. Kind of like when you first pop into Destiny and you think the Fallen is scary. Then you go to the Hive. Then you go to the Vex, the Cabal, from there. And then like if you start up a new character, even if it's of a different class, you're used to it. That's kind of, at least that's how I felt about Attack on Titan in that sense as it went on. That's why, didn't finish the rest. Mostly because I lost interest. It just wasn't going anywhere in my mind. Anywho, there's my 2 cents on how to be creative. So, let's go over it. Have fun. Have fun being creative. Have fun making your story. And yes, take criticism. Take criticism and straight up enjoy yourself. Yes, there will always be criticism. Even Nick Nimmin probably gets criticism. Most of it's probably not valid, just someone from a side computer wanting to cause drama. I recently have understood drama. Anywho, thank you for watching. What is my channel about, you might be asking? Well, to be honest, I haven't fully decided.
You what now?
Okay, so basically I'm just going to be making creative videos either from friends, from myself, doing reviews, tutorials, pretty much whatever the heck I come up with. Kind of like my Instagram. And yeah, you can go find me on Instagram. Not really Facebook. Haven't gone there yet, especially with the situation. But just Caleb L. Lafayette. So, anywho, thanks for watching. Consider subscribing and sure, bell icon if you like. And yeah, thanks for watching.